Hey guys, it's Adam. I hope you're doing lovely. And today, welcome to Do You Watch Anime? And this is a show where I sit down with a guest and ask them, do you watch anime? And we're in kind of a different situation here. So today, joining me is voice actor in so many things. It would take me the entire hour to, you know,
voice actor
list.
in anime. That's
Yeah,
it. That is
in
a
anime.
thing.
Yep. And Twitch streamer as well. Sean Chiplock, how are you today?
Well, as you can tell, I am unshaven. My hair could use a shower. My camera quality is not as good as yours. So in terms of voice actor speak, I'm doing great.
Yeah.
You know, it's working. There's not my roof is not leaking onto my head, so that's progress. That's progress.
Yep.
I'm living the good adult millennial life in that yesterday I had completely wide open to do anything I wanted, and I got to do none of it. So
Of course, it's like I paid bills and that's about it.
I pay. Listen, my ability to pay the bills and be like, this bill is paid and not unpaid is very good. Like if I could take a class in college called Paying Your Bills, I would have a straight A in that class.
Perfect.
It'd be the only one that I had above a B- in, but I would have an A in that class.
Perfect. I love that. So, do you watch anime?
Do I watch anime? All right. Here's where like the answer becomes yes and no, and you just lost your street cred and you just gained your street cred back. Okay.
Yeah.
I am. Let me establish my baseline, okay? Do I watch anime is best answered with the follow-up question of, did I wake up after the end of Inuyasha every night because the George Lopez theme song came on?
Oh my god.
Woke me up from bed. Either that or the brilliant, it would just be like the quiet singing of like, I will always protect Inuyasha. Followed by Anata I omoi zuto. Yeah, I woke up to that more times than I can count. Half the time, I would also peripherally watch anime because living on the East Coast meant that Neopets didn't reset their dailies for the day until 3 o'clock in the morning, which meant I had to play Maple Story until 3 o'clock in the morning so that I could do my dailies on Neopets so that I could go to bed because I had to wake up at 5:45 to get ready for my school bus. And
it's a good sleep schedule.
And do the homework on the school bus that I hadn't done up to that point. Do you know how hard it is to write solutions to math problems when your bus driver tries to hit every speed bump on the road just to teach a lesson to those goddamn kids who won't sit in their seats? Anyway, so I would peripherally listen to Full Metal Alchemist, Cowboy Bebop, Outlaw Star. Hello, we're talking the original classics. Super Milk Chan.
Damn.
Yeah, we're talking like the messed up Adult Swim era as well. But I didn't when I went to high school and college, I didn't watch anime as often as I read manga. Like my thing that I would do after I was done with my part-time shift at a library, or when I had a part-time shift over closer to where I lived at home, I would go to Barnes & Noble and I would sit in the Starbucks cafe and read like 2 volumes of Death Note a day until I was done with that.
Hell yeah.
Alternatively, on my breaks when I had my part-time job at the library, I would watch 3-part YouTube videos of Chobits episodes.
Yes, Chobits. Oh my god. Yes.
I listen, you want to talk about Vietnam? I went through that era of looking for episode 22, part 2 of 3, and I could find part 1 of 3, and I could find part 3 of 3. But part 2 of 3 was nowhere to be found, and then you found someone else that uploaded part 2 of 3, but that started like 3 minutes after where part 1 ended, and you're like, but I need to know what happened in the 3 minutes between part 1 and part 2. I lived that life, all right? I've been there. Nowadays, it is hard. It is hard for me to say that I watch anime because, speaking historically, do I have the free time to watch anime? Actually, I was going to say yes, but actually, I think the answer is no because between things like my streams, my auditions, weirdos who want to interview me for podcasts and stuff like that, I just don't end up having. I just don't have the time to sit down and binge a show that I want to binge. Like even if it's a short, you could probably name like a bunch of 12 episode, like one season anime that I could watch and be like, great, I'll get to it this week. You did not get into it within a week.
Yeah.
So most of my experience with watching anime is when I'm about to record that scene for anime. So like, I would say one of the last anime that I watched was probably Re:Zero, and that's literally both personally and professionally, because when I was cast in Re:Zero, I obviously binged the entire series over a weekend so I could come in prepared. But then also, Subaru was kind of the entire face of season 1. So even if I hadn't watched the show before going in to record, I technically watched the anime just from seeing every single scene before I did my voicing for it.
Yeah.
But by and large, I would say that nowadays I unfortunately don't get the chance to watch as many anime as I would like. And that's not only, something personally unfulfilling, but professionally, I would be the first to say, if you want to, as a voice actor, if I want to work in more anime, I need to be watching the shows that are being dubbed so I can get a sense for the types of performances that people are looking for, what style they're going for. Is it hyper exaggerated? Is it more down to earth? Especially if it's, say, because I still regularly am getting auditions for season 2 of something, season 3 of something. And it should be the easiest thing in the world to watch season 1 and go, okay, this is the atmosphere that those characters are in. This is the type of performance they're typically giving. Because knowledge is power when it comes to those situations. So I will say my official answer is currently no.
Yeah.
Historically, not really.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always been involved in that sphere in one way or another. It's not as simple as going, I don't watch anime, I'm not involved with it. It's more of, I'm involved with anime in practically every other way besides watching it.
I mean, it works, So we'll touch on Re:Zero. Right behind me is Rem as a fairy.
I'm every time I go into an anime store and I don't see like Bumblebee Thong Subaru or like, listen, no, I will show you. This is my pride and joy, because the day that the pre-orders for this went live, I was like the first person to order
that's
it.
sick.
Yeah. So I mean they only could sell it because it had her on it. I don't know if they would have sold it if it didn't have him.
Yeah.
But I look at that.
That is so sick. My god.
This is my buddy. He chills there. He's my one piece of Subaru merch that I have. So.
Yeah. Oh my god. So I'll wait until you put it back.
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
All right. So in the show, it's one of my favorite shows, selfishly. I binged it a couple of years ago, I think like 2 or 3 years ago, like season 1 and season 2, and I fell in love with it instantly. I think Subaru is such a good character.
Right.
And just the shit that he goes through. Oh my god.
I love how realistically it plays with the concept of, here's someone from the real world that is now in this mystical world, but that doesn't mean they gain any of its abilities immediately.
Yeah.
But as much as I enjoyed season 1, I was so impressed with how season 2 made you basically give a shit about everyone else besides Subaru.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it didn't even do it in the sense of, okay, now we're going to paint Subaru as an actual weakling. It was, he's off doing his own thing, which gives us a chance to explore everyone else's motivations and backstories, so that by the time they all come back together at the end of season 2, you're like, oh my god, I want to see everyone work. It feels like a Hyrule Warriors situation or a Dynasty Warriors, where it's like, I now understand what everyone brings to the table, not just him. And I now want to see them all in situations where they can excel.
100%. And like, whenever like I talk to other Re:Zero friends, they're like, I was a bigger fan of season 1. And I was like, am I the outlier?
No, man.
Yeah.
No, man. Like, what makes me laugh is when people ask who my favorite girl in season 1 of Re:Zero was, I would say Patricia, half jokingly, because I was like, she's the girl who let Subaru ride her before they barely even knew each other.
Yeah.
But in season 2, by the end of season 2, she clearly is the best girl.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but she brings the punch.
Yeah.
So,
straight up.
so good.
Oh, it's so good. And there's just so many characters get so much like depth put into them, and it's like, oh, it's so good. So speaking on that, Subaru, like I said, Subaru goes through some shit, right?
Right.
The screams that you put out were insane. I don't understand how that came out of your mouth. I still like to like bring people into like ReZero. I'm like, okay, watch this clip.
Yep.
Where he's just screaming.
It's funny to me because the one that gets shared the most often is that kind of like 2.5 minute monologue that he does in episode 18, which is funny to me because I think that's the big monologue of episode 18. But the few times that I've gone back to watch, I'm like, oh my God, he talks for like 12 minutes straight. It is. Did I say these words? Am I sure they didn't just put this into an AI algorithm and let it churn out the other 9.5 minutes? Like,
yeah.
Well, it's the screaming is a combination of two things. One is just because I've naturally been very high energy, very loud, much to my dad's tolerance over the years. He used to make fun of me watching Dragon Ball Z because he was like, is it just these men screaming at each other for 18 minutes? And when I was younger, I did no, there's real story. But now that I'm educated, I go, yes, and it's the coolest goddamn thing in the world.
Hell yeah, yeah.
You should see the movie where they do it for 80 minutes. But it was the combination of the fact that I had naturally talked loudly and done that kind of shouting for so long meant that I had an easier time accessing it. Not to make fun of anyone, but something you'll sometimes notice from a lot of beginner voice actors is, they can talk normally, but as soon as they have to shout, they kind of do this thing where they're like, deliberately, because I don't want to bother the neighbors. I don't want them to hear me. Whereas I'm like, no, fuck it. I'm gonna go as loud as I have to go for this.
Yeah.
Number two is because I'm sure you understand, it doesn't matter how trained you are in something like that. If you are pushing your throat to its absolute limit, if you are screaming at the top of your lungs, you are going to blow your voice out eventually. Now, depending on your level of experience, that could differ in terms of how long it takes, how quickly it does it, how much damage there is, how long it takes you to recover from it. It's going to happen. There is a role that I'm doing right now, can't talk about it officially yet, where when they ask to schedule me, I ask for as close to Friday afternoon as possible, because guaranteed I will be leaving that session feeling a little scratchier than usual, and I want to be resting as soon as possible.
Yeah.
All that to say, when I got to those scenes, I think of the cave scene in season 1, the rabbits, the snowfield scene in season 2.
Yeah.
Especially when they are long strings of that, when there's no easy way to cut out of it. The very fact is, you look at that and you go, okay, I'm either going to do this right or do this the best way that I can the first time, or I'm going to half-ass it or cut myself off early and then risk them saying, nope, we need it to go longer, or nope, that was a bad point to stop, or it peaked a little bit here, or it didn't quite fit in here, we need to do it again. And the only thing worse than doing something full throttle is having to do something full throttle a second or third time when you are already feeling the effects of it the first time.
Yeah.
So the case in point that I bring about the scene from season 2 is I was literally in that studio going, let's watch all of it. Let me get a sense for how long it goes, what the peaks and valleys are. I must have watched it like 2 or 3 times just to kind of memorize where the big peaks and valleys were. And then I went, let's see how far we can get this in one go, because there's no easy way to cut this off. It's going to strain me no matter what. And I want to try. The less I have to come back in and do, the easier it will be for me.
Yeah.
So, sorry, long rant about that, because it's not just as simple. For people who are curious, it's not just as simple as going, okay, here's where you need to scream.
Yeah.
It's understanding the intensity required, the context that's causing you to scream, how long you need to be doing it for, and most importantly, can I place it in a way that I can make the sound that needs to be made without cracking my voice, breaking it in the middle of the performance, or destroying myself so that I can't do any more performance after that. So
100%. Like, yeah, every time I'm like, holy, I don't like, it hurts my voice just to listen to it.
It was funny. The other reason why I said I have to do it in one take was because season 2 was done entirely remotely because of COVID restrictions.
Oh yeah.
So I was in an apartment with a shared wall And I forget if I either apologized to my neighbor ahead of time or if I put a sign. I don't know if you ever saw the viral sign that I put on my door. But I put a sign on my door during COVID that said, "Hi, I'm a professional voice actor. You know, that I'm recording from home because of COVID.
Yeah.
I do some very intense roles. Sometimes that involves being murdered, dying, being physically hurt, attacking somebody. So please don't call the cops on me. And if it sounds real, it means I'm probably doing a good job." And that was like the first time that I had something that I posted go so viral that it was like moms of Facebook sharing the posts and stuff like that. Like it was
oh my
literally
God.
social media viral with how people were sharing it.
Damn.
So,
you gotta get the moms of Facebook on your stream.
Right.
Moving on to Tokyo Revengers, because you are Draken, which is my favorite character in Tokyo Revengers. So what was your kind of like thought process when taking on Draken?
Okay, so are you familiar with Jonah Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to give credit to Jonah Scott because when I auditioned for Draken, my first take was probably not very fitting. It was your typical kind of like gang member sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then I thought about, okay, he looks very cool, calm, collected, and I thought, how would Jonah Scott play this role? Because if you've ever seen Jonah Scott, this sounds mean, but part of our craft is borrowing from others what we are inspired by, of like, oh, I really like how so-and-so would approach this type of character.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever heard Jonah Scott stream, Jonah Scott is kind of all the way down here. He's just very chill. He's like, hey, we're going to play some Dying Light 2. Maybe watch some Beastars. He's just, So I was like, what if I played Draken like this? And I was like, hey, Mikey, come on, So I literally approached it from that mindset, and that's the one that booked it. I'm like, oh God, I owe him residuals every time I get paid from this.
The funny thing is, I actually thought it was Jonah. Like, legitimately thought it was Jonah the first like 4 episodes, and then I checked it and went, holy shit.
I should send him a care package.
You
after
should.
This. But that also is kind of what helped me understand his character, because as I mentioned, he's kind of the Merlin. He's the grounding force for the other characters.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's not all powerful, but he knows his shit, and so he's kind of there to keep the others in line.
Mm-hmm.
Mikey, literally to keep Mikey in line. And so it makes it easier to not go too far. The character who has to be kind of grounded the whole time and explains this is how life is. You don't have to bow your head. He's very knowledgeable, but that also makes it fun because when he does go into his kick-ass mode, when they have the big warehouse fight and he's like, you're all now part of the Tokyo Manji gang, It's like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was recording is the dub on season 3 now, or is it still season 2? I don't recall.
I think it's still season 2, because I don't know if there's going to be a dub for Disney. Because
I remember there was a point where it mentions like him fighting against a group of 100 people.
Yeah.
And then he comes in and he checks in with like the other 2, and he's like, hey, are you guys, I'm all finished up here. How are you guys doing? And at the time, I thought he was doing that fight versus 100 people with part of the Tokyo Manji gang. I did not realize it was him kicking the ass of 100 people and then coming in and going, hey, I'm all done over here. What the hell are you stupid heads up to?
Oh, I love that.
What a cool character.
Oh my God. Literally, like, as soon as he hit the screen, I was like, oh, I love him. like he's just so cool.
You get, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of the passionate cosplayers are the Draken ones too. Like I've seen groups, I've seen people do a group Tokyo Revengers cosplay, and a lot of them go for just the wig and the coat.
Yeah.
But the Draken people, they get the specific hairstyle, they get the temporary dragon tattoo. They go all out with it, and I appreciate them for that.
Yeah, 100%. So we're gonna switch gears, okay? You've played so many characters and so many different things. While I was
to
going
the point
through,
where I have to bring up my BTVA just to remember them.
Exactly. This isn't anime because I had to touch on it because there's just it caught my attention.
Okay.
You're in VeggieTales.
I am. I am.
How was that?
I wouldn't be able to tell. Okay, so there is. This is a perfect example of this, but I'm going to touch on it briefly.
Yeah.
There is this. It feels like I've reached this kind of point in my career where maybe I'm not aware of how versatile my range is.
Yeah.
Because I have had cases where I have done a voice for clients and they've been like, "Oh my God, like Sean, how are you doing that? That's so different." And in my head, I'm going, well, it didn't quite come out the way that I wanted it to. I felt like I could have gone a little bit deeper, but they're happy with it, so okay. And VeggieTales was an example where I went into audition and I didn't. I feel bad to the directors of me saying this because obviously I got the confidence and I was able to bring it to the table when the time came. But when I came in for the audition, I remember thinking like, all right, just do the best that you can because you have been trying out for original animation, prelay animation for a long time and it hasn't panned out. So you have the opportunity, just go for it. And they were so enamored with my ability to switch between all these different character voices. And while it's weird because you will get a lot of people who say, don't try to hide your natural voice because a lot of people book the large majority of their work using their natural voice because that's their authentic, I keep trying to say their authenticity. That's their authentic presentation,
Yeah.
But in the same vein, my versatility has absolutely booked me work. I can think of this explicit times where I have been booked and the client said, part of why we hired you was because we could not believe how different your actual audition sounded from your slate in your normal voice. And they saw that there was utility that they could use me for in casting me for a bunch of smaller roles in addition to the major one. But that's getting beside the point.
Yeah.
So VeggieTales was just interesting where I was familiar with it and I knew that it was supposed to be wholesome, educational, a little bit silly, not Mau Mau or Amazing World of Gumball silly, but not too serious. The stakes are not too high. And I think it helped because Awful Alvin in particular was someone where I was allowed to be a little more maniacal and kind of, I think of the teacher from Darla, the guy who's always talking like he's about to lose his mind, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So once I was on board with that, I think it was just a lot easier to kind of get into the groove because some characters were recurring. You had Scooter who helped me work on my Scottish accent. But other characters just like, okay, who are we playing today? What world are we exploring? What's the scenario that we're being introduced to? And I thought it was really cool. I always get worried when it comes to like reboots or rehashes because I have been on revivals of franchises that were received very well, and I have been on revivals of franchises where a couple of years later down the line, I'm looking online and going, oh, people are really, really upset about the behind the scenes of this production. And I did not even know that it probably should have gone to the original voice actor or director or show headrunner. And, maybe I should stop talking about being involved in this, like that kind of experience.
Yeah.
So I'm just grateful for every opportunity that I get. I'm grateful to hopefully be a positive impact on a franchise that people grew up with or are big fans of. Every job a blessing. So
100%. So that I just have a question. How did you originally get into voice acting?
So remember that Neopets Maple Story late night school thing that I told you about?
Yeah.
That was there's actually an important reason behind that. A big part of why I stayed up so late was because this was around junior year of high school, and I'm sure you remember when they were starting to push the whole you need to figure out which college you're going to and which major you're going to focus in because God help you, if you go into college and don't have a major picked out, your life is going to crumble before your very eyes. Me making friends with people in their junior year who still don't have a declared major of college, junior year of college, not of high school.
Yeah.
And I was taking all these advanced classes. I was taking these college prep classes, and I was doing well in them. Well, as in like, I think the worst class that I was doing in high school, I had like a C+, and I think it was a history class just because I couldn't be bothered And I understand it's important to know our history. It wasn't a lack of care for history. It was just, it did not jive with me. And I struggled so hard to pay attention. I'm proving myself to you, even though, listen, I still have dreams about forgetting projects until the day they're due. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been out of college for literally 12 years at this point.
Yep.
Anyway, so I was doing fine in all of these subjects. I was getting passing grades, B+, A-, but when it came to figuring out something that I wanted to dedicate 4 years and $40,000 a year of my finances to, or my parents' finances, sorry. I could not think of anything that I was like, this is what I want to dedicate my life to. I thought I was a huge fan of math until pre-calculus happened. And I kid you not, I took the same exact pre-calc class for 2 years in a row and still don't remember a damn thing from it. Science was my jam. It was my favorite until it involved math.
Yep.
And then as soon as it involved the action line, I went, nope, sold out of that. History, I literally fell asleep in it so many times that I started getting sent to the office for it. Spanish was okay, but I didn't feel like I was... It was just one of those things where like, I'm glad I know this language. I am definitely not going to devote my life around this language. You know what I mean? For me, the major use I got out of Spanish in high school was being able to politely ask the Brazilian players in MapleStory if I could train in their space for a while, and understanding what they said back. Yeah, because I didn't know that the Spanish word for no was no, but now I know. So, right? I thought Anyway, so I struggled because I didn't have anything that motivated me, that wasn't being pushed by other people as this is something you should look into doing. And one night on Christmas break, while I am doing my dailies and Neopets and Toonami is starting over for the evening, just by sheer happenstance, I end up so bored. Or I want to see how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
29.
29. So you may actually remember this.
Yeah.
Do you remember an advertising period on Adult Swim that had this like neon colored blob dude who literally the whole ad was him going, AdultSwim.com, they got games and shows.
Oh, I'm Canadian, so I didn't grow up with Adult Swim because I'm Canadian. So, but I have seen that online. Yeah,
which is funny because like one of the most influential anime of all time on Adult Swim, Inuyasha, was a Canadian production.
Yeah, it was.
And I know this mostly because a lot of that cast came back for Dragalia Lost, if you remember that game. The voice of Ranzel, the voice of Ranzel was the same dude who voiced Inuyasha.
Oh, so, okay, yeah.
Oh, there's so much overlap in that game. It's not even funny.
Damn.
Richard Ian Cox, I think is his name.
Yes, that's it.
And by the way, that show holds up very well in terms of voice acting performance. My wife has been watching it as of late, and I am impressed at how solidly it holds up.
Yeah, I grew up I grew up hating it because it was right after Dragon Ball Z, and I was like, I just want more Dragon Ball Z. And then
because I think about this being during an era where they were probably still ADRing to tape, and they probably had to make up words on the fly to fill in when the lip flaps didn't fit. Yeah, and it ends up sounding a lot more organic and natural. If you listen to some of like the jabs and teases that Kagome does towards Inuyasha when he annoys her, it sounds like an annoyed high school girl. I was thoroughly impressed.
Yeah. Like,
anyway, go ahead.
I finally watched it in college, and I was like, why did I hate this for so long? Like, I love it. And like, it's in my top 5 favorite anime. It's just fantastic. It's just so good.
And I will fight people who try to say there's a version of Full Metal Alchemist that is better than the other version of Full Metal Alchemist, because they are both good for their own reasons. Yeah. There's a whole documentary on it. Anyway. Ooh. So while browsing Adult Swim's website completely randomly, I'm literally just doing my own thing, and it says, hey, here's a sneak preview of an upcoming clip from Trinity Blood, if you're familiar with that. Trinity Blood was the vampires hunting vampires kind of thing. Yeah. And I'm sure you were old enough to remember MTV's Behind the Music video.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd also remember that during it would often have little factoid bubbles that would pop up and say, this was part of their first debut album, which, started at this place on the Billboard Top 100 or something like that.
Yep.
Or this was recorded while they were suffering from a cocaine addiction or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, this behind the scenes video or the sneak preview also had some extra blurbs that would pop up that you could click on to get like background info about the characters or the story so far, or what other projects the creator of the series had worked on. And one of them was a little in-studio snippet of Troy Baker in the booth recording his lines for that scene that you were watching in that moment.
Wow.
And it was literally a 2-camera setup. One camera was on the screen of the scene being dubbed. The other camera was kind of like a top-down of him standing in the booth looking at his script. And it was literally a par session, or a par for the course session. They had the beep, beep, beep before he did his thing. It was him talking. And I noticed as he started talking that they weren't applying any special filter to his voice. They weren't pitching it down as he spoke. It wasn't like one of those Darth Vader helmets that like makes it sound like it's Darth Vader talking. It's just Troy performing with mostly his own voice. But because of the 2-camera setup, I saw a human being in front of a microphone talking at the same moment that the character's lip flaps were moving. And I know this sounds stupid in hindsight because I grew up watching Dexter's Lab. I grew up watching anime. But it wasn't until I saw a person speaking at the same time as the lip flaps that my brain went, oh, this is a thing. Like, this is a thing people do. This is a job that they do. And I hate to describe it as like a spiritual ignition moment, but that was the first time that something that I could do as a career, as a job, spoke to me in such a way that I was just immediately enraptured with it. And I remember going, I don't know what this is. I don't fully understand this process, but more than anything else in the world, I want to be involved in this. I want to do this. And it's funny to describe it like that, because to go from, I don't know what this is foreign to me, I have literally no prior experience in it, to I want to be a part of this by any means necessary. It just felt right. And it's even funnier because my younger brother and I used to play Nintendo 64 games co-op together, and we would voice the dialogue lines. If they didn't have voice acting in the game, Bomberman was really good for that. And I still didn't understand that was a thing that people professionally did. I was doing it, and I still didn't go, hey, I wonder if people do this for real when I watch cartoons or play games that do have voice acting. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I did not conceptualize that. It did not happen up here. So,
oh God.
So that discovery was really important, and it was all downhill, uphill, whatever hill from there, where I just got involved in Newgrounds. Like, I love doing this. Is there a chat in this, or I'm trying to see if there's a chat window in this that can send something to you.
Oh, there is
Add
a chat
marker. There is?
I think so.
Oh, I found it. Yes. Oh, that's a whisper backstage. Hold on. Newgrounds, Sonic Mega. I found my life's calling. There we go. If you search up what I just said into the chat, and I'm going to send it to you right now.
All right.
Here is the thread that I made on Newgrounds.
Oh my gosh.
When in February 20, because I started January of 2007. This is the thread I made 17 years ago when I told Newgrounds I discovered what I want to do with my life. Yeah. I came back to it about 10, 12 years later and updated the thread and said, hey, I'm bringing this thread back from the dead just to say, follow your dreams, kids. You know, it was the cool.
I just love the one, this motherfucker is the great Deku Tree. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
My God.
So, I just got super involved with it from there, and everything kind of snowballs from there, where I could, if I wanted to, I could detail every step of the process over the next like hour and a half. But really what happened from there was I just stayed involved with it any way that I could throughout history, where In college, I was taking classes related to audio production, stage theater, minimally. I got involved in on-campus productions where I had opportunities to do voiceover, whether I was pre-recording announcer stuff for like a skit that we were going to be performing.
Yeah.
I was involved in the online community, voice acting club and Newgrounds all throughout college. Once I moved out to California, I was taking workshops. I'm still taking workshops to this day regularly. I'd say I'm doing a minimum of 2 to 3 workshops every single month. And then when it comes to the performances, the quote that I steal from Will Smith, who stole it from somebody else, is that they don't go looking to build a whole brick wall, like as a concept. They just go and they set each brick individually as perfectly and neatly as they can, because when they step back, the wall will have built itself of their legacy over time from all those individual bricks. And I take that same approach where it's each job is another brick. Each studio is another brick. It's another chance to put a new brick down and build a stronger foundation that I can then show off to people and go, hey, it's a pretty nice wall, right? Don't you want your brick to be a part of that? So, and that's basically how it got involved. It was by sheer, because I think that is the one and only time that I ever went to Adult Swim's website. It wasn't a thing that I went to.
Yeah.
Like outside of playing, what was it, the unicorn game?
Yeah.
I think it was the one time that I went to that website. So sheer happenstance that completely changed the trajectory of my life. And I'm so grateful for it, because I do not know what I would be doing if it wasn't for VO, and I don't know if I'd be having as much fun with it.
100%. My goodness. Wow. That's such a, that's so crazy. That just let's just visit the website and then just change my life, right? Oh my God, that's crazy. So speaking of the great, Deku Tree motherfucker and quoting, so how was the process of landing, being in at least one of my favorite franchises ever, Legend of Zelda? How was that?
A lot of bribe money, a crap load of bribe money.
Yeah.
You've seen how low Japanese businessmen can bow when they're apologizing to each other. I was so deep. I was hitting Minecraft bedrock with how far I was bending over. No, it's actually a really fun. I wouldn't say fun. It's a really interesting story, both in regards to having confidence in yourself and also knowing when to stick up for yourself. Because I feel like I tell this story a lot, but I also understand that not everyone watches the same podcast. So if someone discovers this through your podcast, great.
Yeah.
People know me. What character from Breath of the Wild do you know me most as?
Rivali. Yeah.
Okay. What would you say is the second best character you know me as from Breath of the Wild?
The Great Deku Tree. Yeah.
Okay. Most would say Teba, but that's fine.
Yeah.
What's interesting about Great Deku Tree is he was originally the only role that I was cast as in Breath of the Wild.
Really?
Rivali had not happened.
Yeah.
Teba had not happened.
Holy.
Rivali happened partway through production of recording for the Great Deku Tree. My understanding is someone had already been cast as Rivali, and direction or side tangents or whatever was not working out the way that they wanted, so they were looking to recast, and they asked if I wanted a chance to record for him, and I went, yeah, let's go for it. And they ended up really liking what I did. So they offered me Rivali mid-production of recording for Great Deku Tree.
My God.
Teba happened mid-production of Rivali, because they went, oh, we have this one other Rito that we still need a voice for. Are you capable of this is the versatility that I'm talking about. Are you capable of doing something that fits for this character, but also doesn't sound too close to either Rivali or the Great Deku Tree? Which I think it worked out very well, because I could already tell he was gruffer than Rivali was, but he was still not nearly as old as the Great Deku Tree. So if Rivali was up here and the Great Deku Tree was all the way down here, and all I had to do was take Rivali and rough him up a little bit, and then just make him, right in that middle pocket sort of thing. The reason why I mentioned why it was an important thing of sticking up for myself, and again, this is where the versatility comes in, why I'm going to be a hypocrite about be yourself, but also it's nice if you can do other things too.
Yeah.
When I did the original audition, I I thought it was for a Dragon Quest game because of the way it was codenamed and the way that certain terms were being said and the accent that they were asking for, because I had been playing Dragon Quest 11 at the time. I thought it was for a Dragon Quest game. And I did my best to audition it in that regard, and I made it for a callback. And during the callback, I was visiting my now wife, then girlfriend at the time. It was one of our 2 visits per year that we were able to do because we were long distance from each other. I was supposed to be visiting her for a whole week. And by the time the callback had happened, just from stuff I had seen online and from the very on-the-nose code name of one of the characters, I had been wondering, like, is it possible? Because, like, this was back before it was known that Zelda games could have English voiceover and not be CDI. You know, like, no one was ready to accept that this was a thing that could be happening. So there was that part of me that went, no way. There's no way. Yeah. But this lines up, and oh my God, right? You know, like, just that moment of realization. And the moment that I realized what this was probably for, they were offering to let me do the callback audition remote. And I told myself, this was one of those huge moments where I went, if this is for what I think it's for, the least I can do is tell them I will cut my trip early to come in studio to do the callback audition, not the recording session, the callback audition where it's not even guaranteed that I book the role, because I, A, want to maximize my chances of you guys getting a good, clean file to listen to, and B, internally I was like, this will help show them how serious I am about this opportunity, where if it comes down to these 2 actors are equally viable, but this guy is way more passionate about it and went out of his way to help us out, you know, sometimes that's the deciding factor. And I remember telling my wife, or girlfriend at the time, I remember going, hey, I am so sorry to do this to you, but I needed, this was 3 days in. So I was going to be leaving early on day 4 to come back to do this callback audition. And we were not going to be able to see each other for another 6 to 8 months after that. I said, I think this is for a really, 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 really important project, and I need to maximize my chances for this. Please understand. And she goes, and I'm thinking she was half joking. She could probably come in and correct me if I'm wrong. But she goes, I love you, and I'll let you do what you need to do. If you don't book it, I'm breaking up with you. So,
no pressure.
She's opening the door laughing. Do you want to come add to this real quick? Do you want to contribute? I need you to make a decision, because not like, do you want to come over and contribute real quick? Okay, then at least come in and go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sean's wife. My name is Sage. I can't tell you anymore if I was joking or not. What I can tell you is I was very upset because what he neglected to tell you was he was visiting, not just randomly, but for my birthday. Ooh. So I do recall that conversation. And John is nothing if not a man of his word, and he got the role.
I made it up to her because on the day we had our wedding reception, it was Eevee Community Day at a zoo, so we were all. Yeah, I'm getting to that. Anyway, so not only did we get to walk around the zoo literally all day catching Eevees, but also, I kid you not, less than 10 minutes after the ceremony concluded, we were all talking when someone goes, "There's a Registeel at this Pokestop!" And I want you to imagine a bunch of grown-ass adults, and I'm talking bridesmaids, best men in suits and gowns and dresses, standing in a circle, doing this, while the parents are standing off to the side going, do you have any idea what they're doing? Whatever, as long as they're happy. So, anyway.
My God.
So yeah, that was, and this, I'm sorry, this is such a long story.
No, it's good.
So I go in for the callback, and this is the important part when it comes to the versatility and sticking up for yourself. The callback asked us to prepare 3 characters for audition. And I did character 1, which I would later learn was Rivali. I did character 2 to kind of provide a different aspect of my range. And they thanked me for my time and said, you know, thank you very much for coming in. We'll let you know if we end up hiring you. And I go, hey, could I do my 3rd voice before I go? And they go, oh, right. Oh, which character are we interested in doing? and I'm not going to give the code name, but I'm like,
Yep.
It's the Great Deku Tree.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, oh, no. We appreciate it, but we've got all kinds of dudes. We've got big, burly guys with very deep voices.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I could remember verbatim what I said to them. But what I ended up saying, paraphrasing, was, I understand. And if you decide you're not interested when you hear it, that's fine. But it did say for me to prepare 3 characters. And I would just like the opportunity to do 3 characters since I put the time into that. And they go, yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, go ahead. So I present myself and I get the deep breath. And I start doing the very deep, wise voice. And the director was making the face where he's like... And, like, the owner of the studio is hanging around nearby. And he, like, opens the door and goes, hey, come in here. You got to listen to this. You got, you know, it's like that one scene where it's like, well, listen to this, you know, from Back to the Future. Yeah. Like that. And as I continued doing the performance, when I was done, he punches in and goes, you know, I got to be honest, Chiplock, based on your headshot, if I was not here watching you do that voice, I would not have, just looking at you, I wouldn't have believed you were capable of doing that.
Yeah.
Now, in my head, I'm going, the point of voice acting is about being able to do the voice. How you look should not affect what you think I'm capable of, you son of a... What I actually said was, thank you very much. I'm very glad that I could subvert your expectations. Yeah, thank you. So that defining moment may have changed everything. Because if I had just said, okay, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
I might not have been on the project. That is so weird to me.
Yeah.
That one moment of going, hi, I was asked to prepare 3 characters. I'd like to do my 3rd character, please. You know, like, may have been the deciding factor between even being on the project at all, which makes it even funnier that it's not even the role that most people know me for when they talk about Breath of the Wild. So, most cases of auditioning are not that complex. You know, when you ask about how did you get involved in X project, usually it's, well, I'm on the audition roster of a studio. They got the rights to dub a game. They sent me audition sides for characters they thought I might be a good fit for. Yeah. I sent in my auditions, and one of them decided he works great for that character. Let's hire him. And that's that. So, but Breath of the Wild was a special case, but it is such an important case study when it comes to panels and educating people, because it's not only a case study for having the confidence in yourself of going, this is worth the effort for me because I am capable of booking this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten the call back in the first place. It's a case study of, you know, reading the rules, reading the instructions, because sometimes it's a test for you to be able to follow instructions so your audition doesn't get rid of, but also it could be the deciding factor that lets you do the thing it says you have the right to do, because you understand your limitations and your rights as the actor coming into the audition, but also just everything that has come about as a result of it. Even Rivali, Teba, and Great Deku Tree, without going, I won't go into this, that's another story for another time, are examples of different approaches in the recording process, because Rivali, surprise, surprise, was an asshole, and I got really stressed out about trying to find the right cadence for him. Great Deku Tree was the one that I knew would surprise people. Teba was the one where the company was like, hey, do you have something you can do that sounds different? And I went, I know exactly what he sounds like in my head. And I did it, and Nintendo went, works for us. Yeah, like, to have the big N tell you that a voice you did is okay to go with no notes, no changes.
That's crazy.
In the first voiced Zelda game in how many years?
Yeah. God. That's the whole, God damn, that whole story is insane. Holy fuck, man.
So I tell people, like, the reason why I cherish Breath of the Wild so much is not even because it was a first-party launch day console game for one of their best-selling consoles of all time. None of that matters to me. It was about the journey from the beginning of the audition to booking those roles and performing them and just being a part of that and going, oh my God. That was one of the moments where Chiplock was not the aspiring professional voiceover artist. It was Chiplock has the confidence, the versatility, and the willingness to put himself there and succeed because he knows he's capable of it. So
yeah. Oh, I love that story. Oh my God. That's insane. Like literally like, oh, like one misstep and it like wouldn't have happened, like straight up.
And probably to end it on a funny note,
Yeah.
when I was shown the sample scene of Rivali that I was going to be dubbing for when I was auditioning, I giggled like a schoolgirl. I'm not gonna joke. He was handsome Birdman, and I loved like the way that he moved and his sarcasm and his personality. And I'm sitting there in front of the mic going. What I didn't know was that my director on the other side of the booth was on a Skype call with higher-ups from Nintendo. So there were men in suits listening to a 27-year-old going, beautiful Birdman! I love him. But then, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe hearing that level of passion made them go, this guy really cares about this project. He's going to do his best to do a good job. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Switching gears to Genshin. You are Diluc in Genshin Impact. Oh, Genshin.
Genshin.
I have a mixed relationship with Diluc. I'm going to be perfectly 100% honest. Pretty much every poll that we've done that I have wanted this character, I've lost the 50-50 and gotten Diluc.
Won the 50-50.
Or won that. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Won the 50-50. And I'm like, I just want Yelan. How has it been since getting Diluc? Because Genshin is such a big game.
Absolutely. Genshin, I say this not to cause drama, but just from a purely observational standpoint. Genshin is both the best and the worst thing that has happened to my career since I started. And I mean that completely genuinely in both directions. I mean it when I say it is one of the best things that has happened to my career, in part because such a large cast means that I've had the chance to forge new friendships and professional business relationships with a lot of people, both from my generation and the next generation as well.
Yeah.
Valeria Rodriguez, I would consider a good friend at this point. It's helped me get to know Laura Stahl and Koi Dao more consistently from us being at panels together. Like, there are a lot of legitimate business and regular friendships that I have made as a result of that game. The in-person community, phenomenally creative. I love their passion. It is so much easier to do a panel about a certain project when you have the crowd reacting to jokes that you make or being invested in your answers. You know, that kind of participation makes life so much easier.
Yeah.
I also would be remiss if I didn't bring up how grateful I am for the convention opportunities that Genshin provided. Genshin, I would say Genshin continues to be one of the big pulls. I will say last year in particular, especially in 2022, Genshin was the thing that was getting me invited to cons. But being at those conventions allowed me to showcase aspects you can't really get outside of the con, which is how well does he interact with fans? What is he like when he's hosting panels? How are his sales at those conventions? And then as I added more roles to my repertoire, it became known for Diluc and Rivali and Subaru in season 2 and, you know, Tokyo Revengers and Lucilius and Grand Blue and all this other stuff.
Yep.
And now it's way easier for conventions to invite me as a legacy actor and not just a one-trick pony actor. So Genshin kind of set the stage for me to do well at conventions, but then laid the foundation for me to build I don't want to call it a business, but to kind of build a show reel that conventions could then look at and go, this guy's valuable. We want to bring him to our event, which now Genshin is not the only pull for. You know, now I can go there for Breath of the Wild with cast members. Now I can go there for Genshin with cast members. Now I can go there for video games, for Tokyo Revengers, all that other stuff. On the other end, there is, I understand that this is partially because it is, in essence, a gacha game.
Yeah.
People are spending lots of money for very low pity rates when it comes to 5-star. I play gacha games that have 5% rates for 5-star.
Oh my God.
What is it, 2% starting rate?
I think it's 2%, yeah.
Nonsense. Utter nonsense. Anyway, whenever you have a game geared towards a younger demographic that is spending amounts of money that even I double check what I've made for the month before I bother spending that amount of money.
Yeah.
There is always that risk of the sense of entitlement of going, I've spent money on this game, which means my opinion is valued, because if they want to keep my money that is helping fund this game, then they better listen to what I say.
Yeah.
And when you combine that with the anonymity of the internet and the freedom of the internet, but the greatest thing about the internet is no matter what you believe or what your interests are, you can find people who agree with you and share your interest. The worst thing about the internet is no matter what their opinion is or what their hobbies are or what they believe, they can find people who support them or share those ideals and build a community around it.
Yeah.
Which means it is very, very easy for emotions to get very high, for opinions to get very exaggerated and get very opinionated, and especially for people to feel like they need to be part of something important, especially when you're in middle school, high school, maybe early college, and you are trying to define your life, and you're trying to figure out, who am I? What do I stand for? God forbid if it's like, I don't want to be someone who is looked down on, who is chastised. I want to fit in. I want to belong. I want to be in part of a community. So whether it's from pure desire or whether it's from, I don't want to be on the other side. I don't want it to be on the them side of us versus them. It is so, so easy for those people to get a platform and feel like they can say whatever they want or be like, this person is problematic, or not understand the nuance of what may be a disagreement between adults, or maybe just a joke that, and I'm not saying like, oh, I made like a sexually aggressive joke and I just meant it as a joke, guys, since you didn't find it funny.
Yeah.
I'm talking about things that you thought it was funny in the moment. It turned out to not be that funny, and it kind of comes off kind of cringy or awkward. What we would call cringe, or like, okay, that was kind of weird.
Yep.
Don't do that anymore.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Now gets immortalized on the internet. Now it's shared. Yeah, I'll be upfront. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't happen. I have people sharing tweets that I made from 10, 11, 12 years ago. There was a post that I made in response to someone talking about Battle Network, and I used an inappropriate word that someone like myself should not be using. And it was not meant in any racist or derogatory manner. It was kind of like in a comedic sense of, you know, you wouldn't believe what else is happening. Still doesn't justify it that I shouldn't have used it. But to this day, even though I have not done anything like that since, that tweet is still brought up as an example of me being problematic, of why I should not have the jobs that I have.
Yeah.
And it can be troublesome because, and this is the reason what stresses me out is not the fact that people bring it up. What stresses me out, and what I think a lot of people don't realize, is the internet, at least for now, is forever.
Yeah.
Not just forever in the sense of that it's always going to be around and that, you know, things are always going to be available. It's that people are being born, people are growing up, people are reaching their teens before they become adults. There will, as long as there is always a fresh set of eyes to discover something that they then feel compelled to share, either because it's like, oh my God, why is nobody talking about this? Probably because it was already talked about 12 times in the past.
Yeah.
Or because they want to belong. As long as there is always a fresh set of eyes to drama or discourse or something, it will never end. There will always be someone who brings it back into the spotlight, and then a group of people who go, oh my God, why is no one talking about this? We need to make this aware to as many people as possible. And it's a cycle.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a lot of adults eventually go, all right, I'm not taking part in this. And they either get off social media, or they turn their social media into just a news account where all they do is post announcements about what they're doing and then get off, because it's dangerous. It's really dangerous. So not to go too far into the, you know, here's why Genshin is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
I think there's a very clear divide between the great parts of the community and the not so great parts of the community.
100%.
And you can even see it in the way that the community infights itself. Overall, I am immensely grateful for Genshin. I do not take it lightly. I am super grateful for everyone that I've worked with on the project and continue to work with. I am enamored with everyone who shares their gacha horror stories, because I play gachas myself, and I get to share my stories with them.
Yeah.
But I would be remiss to say if it was all sunshine and rainbows, because any project that involves money and emotionally charged teenagers at times is a disaster waiting to happen.
100%.
So I think it's great that I have the opportunity to constantly reflect on myself through that game, through that project, through that community, and go, am I doing the best job that I can do to be the best person that I can be? Because I don't want a, James Gunn with Guardians of the Galaxy 3 situation where it doesn't matter how established I am or how professional I try to be or how consistently I try to be good and do good things. Am I doing anything that could come back to bite me in the ass later? And I think it's important to have that reality check.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather it happens now than down the line when I have a lot more to lose. So
100%. Yeah. When people start talking about like fandoms and stuff, I'm like, I am terrified of all of them. There's good sides and bad sides to every single fandom, right? And it's unfortunately the internet.
Right.
Oh, goodness. One question before we go.
Okay.
I was looking at your Twitter. I think it was yesterday.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, it's fine. Do you still have the bracelet on? There it is.
To their credit,
yeah.
The dude who tied my band actually he doubled back this little tassel point, like he literally he doubled it up before tying it so that it sits right there, which is great because it means it's not like constantly rubbing up against other parts of my hand.
Yeah.
And he managed to tie it just the right amount of looseness to where it's not falling all the way up my arm.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't easily fall off my hand.
Yeah.
But because it can move around as much as it does, it doesn't like scrape off dead skin because it's so tight.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't sit in one place for so long that my hand isn't able to get tanned there or ends up getting trapped. So I have to give kudos to the staff member who put this on, because if I have to keep this on for an entire year, this feels like the best way to do it. Like I could not ask for this to be any looser, any tighter. People are like, oh my God, it's going to be so gross. It's going to be so grody. I'm gonna be showering.
I know. It's like you come back to the convention and you're just like, it's like yellow. Like,
right.
That's not gonna happen.
I will laugh if it's like starting to fray from how weak the fibers have become. And obviously, if it naturally breaks off, there's not much that I can do about that. But I'm gonna see. I'll see what happens. You know, the wristband stays on during sex. So.
Oh, goodness. So thank you so much for being on. Again, thank you. Where can the lovely people find you on the interwebs?
Twitch and Twitter are the two big ones. Twitter, I'm sorry, X. Twitter is VA Sonic Mega, like voice actor Sonic Mega, because the original got obliterated because of certain fandoms.
Yep.
Twitch is just Sonic Mega without the VA. I do technically have an Instagram. I do technically have other stuff, but those are the two that I use just because I am not interested in the whole song and dance, monkey dance of like TikTok, Instagram, all of that stuff. I'd rather just do my work and have people know me through that. So Twitter for shit posting, Twitch for streaming, and that's pretty much the big two. Yeah.
And for the Canadians listening, you are going to a taco-thon in August in Montreal, which I am also going to. So I'll see you there.
You should come to the table and say hi. Yeah. I'll give you a signature for free. Ooh. And then you'll be like, hey, you told me you give me a free signature. And I'll go, who the hell are you talking about? Who are you? Right? Who are you? No, I'll probably remember.
Probably.
So.
Perfect. If you want to follow me, it's at Corky Cosplays on Instagram, Adam Corky everywhere else. Subscribe to the Do You Watch Anime YouTube channel. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.